I'm Azaria Tagaya, and this is Nightline. Let's take a look at the headlines. Tabling of anti-party hopping bill postponed again. And Hajj pilgrimage to cost more than 25,000 ringgit per person this year. Good morning. The tabling of the Federal Constitution Amendments 2022 bill on anti-party hopping has been postponed again. However, according to the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, the special session of Parliament next Monday and Tuesday will still go on to table and debate the continued to present and debate the amendments to the Federal Constitution. He said this after a meeting between him and the Steering Committee on Transformation and Political Stability on Thursday, where they agreed to amend the Federal Constitution in a bid to prevent members of Parliament from hopping party. The preliminary draft of the Act will be distributed for the review of the members of the Steering Committee on Transformation and Political Stability before the special session of Parliament next Monday. Another special session of Parliament will be held to present, debate and approve relevant laws in the near future, to be announced by the Prime Minister. The cost of performing Hajj this year is expected to exceed 25,000 ringgit per person, following the increase in taxes and new service charges imposed by the Saudi Arabian government. Lembaga Tabung Haji, the Hajj Executive Director Datuk Sri Said Salih Said Abdul Rahman, said the Pilgrims Fund Board predicted that the cost would continue to rise in the years to come. In a statement, TH, however, assured that it would continue to subsidise the cost for all first-time pilgrims. The cost of Hajj is the direct cost paid to obtain services to perform Hajj, such as the cost of flights and accommodation, which covers about 70% of the total cost. Other costs include meals, bus transportation, tents in Arafah and Mina, as well as mutawif services for 40 to 45 days. He said the total indirect cost alone reaches 60 million ringgit annually. In 2019, the cost for first-time Hajj pilgrims was 22,900 ringgit, but increased to 25,000 ringgit last year after the value-added tax VAT rate in Saudi Arabia was increased from 5 to 15%. Datuk Sri Said Salih also pointed out that on top of that, there would be other additional charges following the new Standard Operating Procedures SOPs introduced in the kingdom this year. He also noted that TH's records show that 2 billion ringgit has been channeled to pilgrims in the form of financial assistance for Hajj since 2001. According to Datuk Sri Said Salih, as of Thursday, Saudi Arabia has yet to make an official announcement regarding this year's pilgrimage. The principle of wasatiyah, or moderation, advocated by the Al-Azhar University, the oldest and largest institution of higher learning in the Islamic world, is in line with the Keluarga Malaysia or Malaysian family concept. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the concept of the Malaysian family cuts across all religions, races and ethnicities, urging all to come together as a strong family, as highlighted by the wasatiyah.
Konsep Al-Wasatiyah atau kesederhanaan yang didukung Universiti Al-Azhar Al-Sharif telah terbukti berjaya mendepani sebarang cabaran pemikiran ekstremisme dan keganasan yang mampu meruntuhkan negara serta merugikan umat Islam.
The Prime Minister said this in a virtual speech delivered during the Al-Azhar Day celebration and breaking a fast at the Federal Territory Mosque on Thursday. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said the Al-Azhar's influence on human history has had an impact on the establishment of today's education institutes. He said the excellent Al-Azhar educators, integrated curriculum and the concept of moderation should benefit all Muslims in creating a generation with knowledge of the world and the hereafter. The Prime Minister said he believed the Al-Azhar Day celebration has significance in the lives of Muslims in Malaysia who were indebted to the institution for its contributions and Islamic thinking. Such an event, he said, can help strengthen the relationship between Malaysia and Egypt in various fields, particularly education. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob called on the people to take care of their health and protect the planet for the well-being of the future generation. In conjunction with the 2022 World Health Day on Thursday, on his Facebook post, he said human beings themselves and the quality of the environment are the main determinants of health. He said a healthy planet contributes towards clean air, water and food. The World Health Day is celebrated on April 7th every year. The theme for World Health Day 2022 is Our Planet, Our Health. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry, MOH, is planning to introduce the Drinking Water Quality Act soon. Its minister, Kyrios, said this is a measure to further fortify protection against health hazards due to unsafe drinking water.
Drinking water is a basic human right, but the reality is that 1 in 3 people globally lack access to safe and adequate drinking water. The Ministry of Health has carried out one of the oldest...
Kyrios said this at the virtual celebration of World Health Day 2022 on Thursday. On another note, he said the MOH will table a new act in Parliament to ban smoking as well as vaping and possession of tobacco products in July this year. According to the National Health and Morbidity Survey, more than 27,200 of Malaysian deaths annually were attributed to smoking. The government has decided to postpone the implementation of the mandatory MS Serum certification and labelling for non-medical face masks to January 1st next year. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Alexander Nantalingi announced the decision, which was made based on public feedback at an engagement session with stakeholders at a hotel in Putrajaya on Thursday.
Untuk pengguna tempatan yang memikirkan ini mungkin menaikkan harga pelitup muka yang sudah rendah sekarang. Tidak, saya diberi jaminan oleh industri, tidak ada kesan. Saya pun bincang dengan Sirim, apakah cas yang dikenakan oleh Sirim kepada pemohon untuk mendapatkan standard ini. Jadi Sirim memberi jaminan akan dicas sangat murah, sangat rendah.
Datuk Sri Alexander also said only 3-ply medical face masks have been listed as controlled items since October 2020, priced at 65 cent and 70 cent for wholesale and retail, respectively. He also said as the country transitioned into endemicity, the use of face masks would be reduced. On Tuesday, the ministry announced that importers of non-medical face masks must apply for MS Serum certification and labelling from Serum QAS International Sendirian Berhad, effective July 4th. Singaporean traffic offenders will be prevented from leaving Malaysia and can be arrested if they have yet to settle their traffic summonses, including with arrest warrants. According to Bukit Aman Police, to date, 108,757 summonses have still not been paid by people from the Republic. Bukit Aman Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Director Datuk Mat Kasim Karim issued the warning on Thursday. He said 143,427 summonses were issued from 2016 to last year. If traffic offenders have an arrest warrant, the police will arrest them and charge them in court. If they cannot be charged on the same day, the traffic offender can be arrested. On enforcement, he said police will continuously carry out crackdowns on foreign nationals, including Singaporean traffic offenders. He also denied that the issue of the outstanding suit was due to weak enforcement. He explained that among the factors of the outstanding summonses were due to the issue of the traffic offender's correct address, resulting in difficulty to post it to them. The Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry Terengganu branch detained a tourist vessel suspected of being involved in the illegal transfer of diesel at a private jetty in Kampung Batin on Wednesday night. Its director, Saharuddin Muhammad Kia, said in the operation at about 11:15 p.m, 3 local men in their 30s who worked on the vessel were also detained. He said the raid was conducted after the activities were monitored for over 3 months as a result of public information and his team's own intelligence.
Jeti ini jeti persendirian lah, jeti persendirian, dan anggota kita telah menemui 3 orang lelaki warga tempatan yang sedang leka melakukan kerja-kerja pemindahan minyak diesel dari tangki square tank yang berada di atas kapal sebuah tangki ke sebuah tangki di skid tank di atas jeti. Di sebelah pada jeti ini ada satu tangki skid tank. Jadi hasil penelitian kita dapati kapal ini telah diubah suai lah bahagian dia untuk melakukan aktiviti ataupun kegiatan penyelewengan ni.
Authorities succeeded in seizing 46,000 litres of diesel as well as the tourist ship that had been modified for embezzlement purposes. The estimated value of the total seizure is almost 400,000 ringgit. In Johor, a Norwegian who was reported missing with 3 other foreigners while diving off Pulau Tokong Sanggul in Mersing on Wednesday has been found safe about 30 nautical miles from where they were last seen. 35-year-old diving instructor Christine Grodem was rescued by a tugboat and taken to the Mersing mini stadium by helicopter at about 12:05 p.m. and subsequently brought to the Mersing hospital for treatment. District Police Chief Superintendent Cyril Edward Nguyen said the chances of finding the 3 missing divers alive and safe in the waters of Pulau Tokong Sanggul are high. Grodem had told authorities she lost sight of the other divers after the group drifted far from their boat due to strong underwater currents.
Kalau mengikut daripada keterangan mangsa tadi, ketiga-tiga mangsa yang lain berjaya timbul. Berjaya timbul maknanya dapat surface. So apabila dia surface dengan equipment yang ada, dengan full gear yang ada, dengan pengalaman mereka yang ada, kita percaya peluang untuk mereka, kita temui mereka dalam keadaan hidup adalah amat besar.
Sekarang ni kita bertumpu ke selatan. Ke selatan. Saya dah pun arahkan untuk maklumkan kepada pihak Basarnas, Badan SAR Nasional Indonesia dan juga pihak Singapura.
Authorities also said that the 3 divers have already recorded over 50 dives before they went missing while undergoing the training course in advanced open waters off the coast of Mersing. However, the current weather conditions as well as other factors could hinder the rescue efforts, including dehydration and hypothermia, which could affect the missing victims. The trio still lost at sea are British national Adrian Peter, his son Nathan Rentzer, who is a Dutch national, and French woman Alexia Alexandra, aged between 14 and 46. A total of 90 personnel from various agencies were involved in the search, using 18 boats and 2 helicopters. Meanwhile, Sultan of Johor, Sultan Ibrahim Sultan Iskandar, has ordered for all diving activities in Mersing waters to be stopped temporarily. The ruler also said current diving activity regulations must be thoroughly reviewed before they are allowed to operate again. More local updates later in the bulletin, but first, Turkey transfers Khashoggi murder trial to Saudi Arabia. Foreign news, a Turkish court decided on Thursday to suspend the trial in absentia of 26 Saudis accused in the gruesome killing of Jamal Khashoggi and for the case to be transferred to Saudi Arabia, a ruling that drew condemnation from rights groups. The Istanbul court made the decision following calls from the prosecutor last week for the trial to be transferred from Istanbul to Riyadh. The country's justice minister later endorsed the request. The decision comes as Turkey, which is in the throes of a deep economic downturn, has been trying to repair its troubled relationship with Saudi Arabia and an array of other countries in its region. Ahead of the ruling, Human Rights Watch had warned that transferring of the trial would block. The consulate in Istanbul 4 years ago has raised a global outcry and put pressure on Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Turkish officials said they believe Khashoggi, a prominent critic of the Crown Prince, was killed and his body dismembered in an operation which President Tayyip Erdogan had been ordered at the highest levels of the Saudi government. China on Thursday has warned the United States that it would take strong measures if U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian, following media reports that she would go next week, said such a visit would severely impact Chinese-U.S. relations.
中方坚决反对任何形式的美台官方往来。美国国会是美国政府的组成部分，理应严格遵守美国奉行的一个中国政策。
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
He added that Washington should cancel the trip, and if the U.S. insists on having its own way, all possible consequences that arise from this will completely be borne by the U.S. side. China considers democratically ruled Taiwan its own territory, and the subject is a constant source of friction between Beijing and Washington, especially given strong U.S. military and political support for the island. Taiwan Foreign Ministry, in the meantime, said inviting U.S. officials and dignitaries had always been an important part of the ministry's work, and that it would announce any official visits at an appropriate time. Pakistan's Supreme Court on Thursday ruled a move to block the vote of no confidence to oust Prime Minister Imran Khan as unconstitutional. Pakistan's Chief Justice Umar Atta Bandial said the controversial ruling is prima facie a violation of Article 95 of the Constitution. The court has also reversed the decision by the President to dissolve Parliament while restoring the Cabinet and Khan as PM. The five-judge bench also said Parliament must reconvene and hold the no-confidence vote on Saturday. Former Information Minister Fawad Chowdhury has said that irrespective of the court's decision, the country would head towards new elections, as it would be the only solution to all the problems the country was facing. In China, some residents under lockdown in Shanghai claim that they are running out of food amid the city's biggest ever COVID outbreak. Residents were confined to their homes, banned from leaving for even essential reasons such as grocery shopping. Public anger was also being stoked by other drastic measures such as the removal of children from their parents if they test positive. Shanghai officials later responded by allowing parents who are also infected to accompany their children to isolation centers. Despite that, Shanghai residents who test positive cannot isolate in their homes, even if their conditions are mild or asymptomatic. They have to go to mandatory quarantine facilities, which critics say have become crowded and have subpar conditions. The city began another round of mandatory mass testing on Wednesday to identify and isolate every case.
Fire service residents telling them they should prepare to evacuate to worsen. I spoke to one resident, and it's not just river rain flooding, just fuel to spill at a fire and rescue and emergencies.
Back on Nightline with some sports news now. The English Premier League, Manchester United were on the brink of announcing Erik ten Hag of Ajax as their next permanent manager. That's according to multiple reports that say that the Dutchman has had positive talks with the club and that he would be confirmed shortly, with a number of high-profile transfer targets linked with moves to Old Trafford. In particular, there are a number of former Ajax players being touted for transfers to Manchester, but also a number of current Premier League stars that the Red Devils reportedly have their eyes on. Reports claim that Harry Kane, Ruben Neves and Declan Rice are all being linked with moves. It was also reported that former England manager Steve McLaren will be appointed as the assistant to Ten Hag. Turning now to tennis, the US Men's Clay Court Championship. Wildcard Nick Kyrios eased past American Tommy Paul in straight sets to reach the quarter-finals. The Australian took the first set 6-4 before closing out the clash with a 6-2 win in the second set. The victory takes Kyrios to his first tour-level quarter-final on clay since getting that far in Houston in 2018. Kyrios will take on lucky loser Michael Moe for a spot in the semis. In the meantime, former Australian Open runner-up Jo Wilfried Tsonga announced that he will retire after the French Open, hoping to put the final touches on an injury-plagued career in front of his home crowd. The 36-year-old Frenchman reached a career-high ranking of number 5 in 2012, but has dropped to number 220 following his latest lengthy injury layoff, which means he cannot enter the main draw at Roland Garros automatically through his ranking and will have to rely on being granted a wildcard entry by organisers. Tsonga has won 18 ATP titles and made it to the Australian Open final in 2008, losing to Novak Djokovic. Still to come on Nightline, skeletal remains of 5-year-old girl found. For staying with us on Nightline, Macau scam syndicates are now withdrawing from pilgrimage funds linked to the conventional bank accounts of their victims. Bukit Aman Commercial Crime Investigation Department CCID had already detected 65 similar cases involving losses of nearly 3.6 million ringgit. In a statement, Federal CCID Director Datuk Muhammad Kamaruddin Maddin said they had warned the public of these scams and would continue to do so in an effort to prevent the public from becoming victims of fraud. He said based on investigations, such activities were being conducted by a Macau scam syndicate. He said they would make calls to the victims and intimidate the victims with allegations of involvement in criminal activities and outstanding credit card debts, among other tactics. The syndicate would then ask the victim to disclose their banking information as a means to clear them of any wrongdoing. Police have now detected cases where the syndicates have withdrawn money from a Tabung Haji account linked to a conventional bank account belonging to the victims. Investigations revealed the victim involved had provided banking information to an unknown individual over the phone. He said the victim not only lost the money from their bank account, but also money from the pilgrimage fund as well. Police urged those with queries to contact the CCID Scam Response Centre. In Kuala Lumpur, police crippled a drug trafficking syndicate following a raid on a condominium in Jalan Klang Lama last Wednesday. Brickfields District Police Chief ACP Ami Hizam Abdul Syukur said a 38-year-old man was arrested during the raid following the information received from the Narcotics Criminal Investigation Division of the Brickfields District Police Headquarters. In the raid, police confiscated ketamine weighing 19.9 grams and 214.43 grams of MDMA amounting to 13,000 ringgit. The suspect was reported to have been active in drug trafficking for 2 years. The suspect, who tested positive for ketamine and has a record for offences under the Penal Code, has been remanded for 7 days until April 13th under the Criminal Procedure Code. The probe is conducted under the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. In Negeri Sembilan, police found human skeletal remains believed to be that of a 5-year-old girl in a bush near the water tank in Taman Bukit Zamrud, Seremban, Thursday morning. District Police Chief ACP Nanda Ma'ruf said the 11 a.m. discovery of the skull, molars and bone fragments were believed to be linked to 3 suspects who were detained in connection with the discovery of a woman's body on March 20th.
Kita jumpa ni hasil daripada soal siasat yang kita perolehi daripada saksi. Jadi saksi telah pun mengaku tempat pembuangan dan kita cari, kita jumpa dengan tengkorak ni. Kita percaya kes ni selesai, tapi walau bagaimanapun kita kena tunggu dululah laporan patologi dan juga laporan forensik.
ACP Nanda also said the skeletal remains of the child who was reported missing prior to this were found scattered on the ground and covered with dry leaves, about 10 meters from the original location of the search conducted on March 28th, and were discovered after police took 2 of the suspects to the location. It was believed that the victim may have died 2 to 3 months before the discovery. However, the body of the woman in the ravine has nothing to do with the child, although the 2 may have stayed with the suspects at one time. The motives of the murders have yet to be determined, and the case was being investigated under the Penal Code. Previously, it was reported that 2 men aged 41 and 44 and a woman aged 18 were remanded until April 11th to assist police investigations after the body of an unidentified woman was found in a ravine at Jalan Bukit Putus. In Negeri Sembilan, a Rohingya labourer is in remand for 7 days from Thursday over the death of his housemate. The remand order against the 40-year-old man was issued by Magistrate Intan Shafinas Roslin. On Wednesday, a 19-year-old Rohingya man was found dead with stab wounds on the abdomen in a house in Jalan Bukit Tembok. The victim, who was a holder of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees UNHCR card, was believed to have died about 5 to 6 hours before the body was found at 10 a.m. The suspect was arrested at about 1:30 p.m. in a shop at Jalan Aston, Bukit Mertajam, Pulau Pinang. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for murder. Well, that's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at visuals of 2 4-month-old red panda cubs, Zaya and Daya, playing in their enclosure. Named by Sydney's Taronga Zoo, Zaya means success in Burmese and Daya means black jade in Chinese. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching, and to our Muslim viewers, Selamat Bersahur.